Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the CKC channel. I'm your host, Fide Master Calvin Klaasen, and yes, we have another episode of Reflection Season 2. We getting, I would say, to the tail of the season, getting closer to the end. So getting interesting. And yes, this is a special one this evening. Um, because we will be interviewing, or Dr. Bouah will be interviewing myself. So yeah, should be interesting. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to press the follow button. And if you are feeling generous, you can also support us by subscribing. We've got our themed tournaments running as well. So weekly themed tournaments. So subscribers do get some extra perks over there. So yeah, I think we don't need to stall any longer. We can go right over to the library side. So let's go over, and I'm going to introduce you guys once again to our main host for the show, Dr. Bouah. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Calvin, and good evening, viewers as well. Yes, as Calvin says, another exciting episode of Reflections. We're probably going to have about 3 or 4 reflections still before we close the season and just go into a bit of winter hibernation while we get our next guest ready for the second part out in the autumn season. But before we get there, tonight, special interview with Calvin Klaasen. Now, Calvin has been known to me for probably the last 16 to 17 years. And in that time, I have seen him mature as a person and as a chess player. And tonight, it's a privilege for me to interview him. Calvin, for those who do not know him, has been representing South Africa since about 2008 already at the senior level. He has represented South Africa at junior levels. And in 2008, he participated in Mozambique in the Zone 4.3 Team Championship. And thereafter, he made his Olympiad debut in 2016 and 2018, as well as winning the 2017 SA Closed Championship, coming joint first with Johannes Mabusela. So, Calvin Klaasen, welcome to the Reflection Show.
Thank you so much, Lyndon. Thanks, Dr. Bouah. Welcome to everyone online as well. I see Bobby Key and King Ulster and Patrick all saying good evening. So welcome, everyone. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be sitting on the other side of the couch this time.
No, definitely. Now, Calvin, how did it all start? Who taught you to play chess?
Well, you know what? I've been pondering about that. Maybe I should have asked the person that actually taught me when specifically. But I've got a feeling it's around the age of 7 or 8. It could be 9, but in that region, my older brother taught me the game. He, of course, also played. I actually discovered there's something like provincial chess from my older brother Mario Klaasen. He, in fact, also represented Eastern Province, um, and yeah. So I learned the game from him at around that age, but I only started playing really. Okay, I played at home a lot, but I guess I started playing tournaments at the end of primary school.
And Calvin, where in the Eastern Cape did you play? Did you play in Port Elizabeth or did you play in one of the smaller towns?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Somerset East. A lot of people in Cape Town here would say, okay, it's just you're just around the corner, but that's Somerset West. So no, I grew up in Somerset East, very small town, about 2 hours drive, or almost 2 hours drive from Port Elizabeth. So Port Elizabeth was the chess hub for everything. So I don't know if you've heard the saying, Lyndon, but they a lot of times make this joke. EP is PE, basically. And okay, myself, Somerset East didn't really have chess. My high school, Errolville Secondary, had a chess team, but we used to travel. They used to travel to Port Elizabeth on the weekend. So I actually, if I wanted to play in a tournament, I had to join a couple of other school kids. Maybe we were 4 or 5, and we would have a teacher that was willing to drive and spend the weekend in Port Elizabeth. And we would drive after school on a Friday and play the tournament sleepover. I used to be lucky. I had grandparents in Port Elizabeth. So go and play Friday evening, get home late at my grandparents' house, and then the next morning early leave for tournament, and then after that we go home again. So if you were really hungry, if you were desperate to play chess, you had to make a plan and go spend weekends in Port Elizabeth, basically, which is about a 2-hour drive from us.
Calvin, who are the top players in Port Elizabeth at that time that you can recall?
Okay, so I would say first of all from my school side, it was my older brother, and then there was another guy that people know from that also plays in Port Elizabeth, Glenwell Malgas. So that was from my school, but going to Port Elizabeth, the top players there were quite a lot of top players to look up to there. So okay, I think one of the biggest names there. Okay, maybe I should actually start with the juniors and then work my way up. But from a junior point of view, when I went to tournaments and so on, the biggest guys, I think there were two names. First of all, Alexander Kromot. So he was definitely someone that I heard of, and one of the first events that I don't know if I played or I just heard my brother talk about the event. He mentioned. I don't know if you played Alex or what, but just Alex giving some advice was already like, well, okay, that's interesting. And another guy that was also very, very scary and dangerous was, of course, Warwick Erlang. And
okay,
yes, Warwick was not the most, how shall I say, classical type of player that I heard of. There was this one opening that my whole school of players was scared of. It was the Latvian Gambit. And yeah, the guys were actually worried about playing e4 against Warwick. And I heard of this, and he played it in a strange way where he sacrifices the rook in h8 somehow. And yeah, the guys avoided that. So those were the top two juniors, I would say. But there was another guy that I saw once upon a time play quite well in an open event. His surname was Velgemoed. I'm not too sure what his first name was, but Velgemoed, I think, was his name.
I think his father was Ronnie Velgemoed and Marco Velgemoed.
Yes, that rings a bell. Yeah, I think it was Marco Velgemoed. So yeah, those were the top juniors at the time. Of course, in my age group or my age bracket, you don't need to think long, and the name Jaco Serfontein pops up. He was kind of like my main rival. I think about a year older than me. So there was a lot of youngsters. Of course, from another point of view as well, there's one guy from the juniors, Shane Safir. Shane was also a dangerous guy. But okay, going on to the senior players, the big boss, I think, was Ewan Kromot. There was one game that I also came across between Ewan and his son Alex, and it was some f4 opening where Ewan went f4, e5, and then white takes on e5, and then black goes b6, and then takes, and then eventually Ewan goes g5, g4 and stuff. Crazy game, but yeah. I think I managed to play Ewan once when I was a junior, and I was horrified. I think I lost very quickly in some e6 Sicilian. So Ewan was the big guy, and a couple of, I mean, there's so many names. Yanni Safir as well. Yanni Safir, even Chris Safir as well. And when I was growing up, I didn't see you around, Lennon. You were probably already gone to Cape Town side. But yeah, those are the first names that come to mind. Of course, and then one big name, of course, I can't miss is of course Freddie Odendaal. Freddie from a young age was also competing, and one of my main competitors in Port Elizabeth. If I miss someone, yeah, it's not intentional. I think Sven Stockley was also
Calvin,
a guy. What's bothering
it's interesting. It's interesting that you listening to you now. You've come through. Warwick Erlang is still playing. Today he plays for Manianani Chess Club. Alex Kromot beat Kenny Solomon at the 2013 Commonwealth. So Alex was still playing a solid game. And of course, Ewan. At the last time I counted, he had 117 EP opens. and also played for South Africa at 3 Olympiads. So, I mean, if you look at it, I was thinking the other day that you are probably the latest Eastern Cape player to make his SA Olympiad team, basically after myself, Kromot, Opov in 2006.
Yes, that's a big name as well. I think Opov was the one that I forgot about. Yeah, also very big
Yeah.
in PE.
But I think it's a good scene. I mean, if you play in Port Elizabeth, it gives you a good grounding, and the guys are playing solid chess, and a lot of decent club players. So, Calvin, but would it be fair to say that you made your breakthrough when you came to Cape Town back in 2006, 2007?
Yes, I think so. What I can say is like you, or let me just uh, uh, re-emphasize what you said about the players being quite decent in PE. I think there's lots of talent over there. We've seen over the years some players coming through the ranks, but I think the main problem for myself growing up in the Eastern Province was there weren't enough tournaments for me to fully flourish. And it was a bit frustrating because as a junior, okay, I started playing junior nationals at under 14 level, I think, second year under 14, something like this. And I would strive every end of the year, or during the year, I would think, okay, I'm gonna win nationals now, or I'm gonna do great, I'm gonna make. And then eventually, I would not do as good as I would, and then I would think back and I would think, oh, but how many tournaments did I play for the year? Maybe like 4 tournaments max.
Yeah.
Maybe one junior or two juniors. But the problem was just that there simply weren't enough events for me to play in. So
Yeah.
if I look at my potential and I compare myself to another player maybe from Gauteng or Cape Town where they have basically played maybe 20 or 30 tournaments, then it's the likelihood for the more informed player or the player that's played more is just much higher. So
Yeah.
so I would say yes. As soon as I got to Cape Town, I got a bit more freedom to play more, and that's definitely when in fact, when I came to Cape Town, I was probably around 1960 on the rating. After that, I quickly broke the 2000 bracket. So yeah.
Now, Calvin, what would you say assisted you in your drive to go from that 1960 to 2000? Because around about between 2006 2008, you made some dramatic breakthroughs. You also won the Western Province Open just around that time as well, and then you also made your debut. Malawi, Mozambique. Tell us a bit about that period because it seemed to have been a good growth period for your chess.
Yeah, no. What I've mentioned just now is basically just the start of everything basically for me. So coming from a small town with close to nobody playing big tournaments and having to travel 2 hours just to get into a tournament, suddenly I'm in Cape Town, and of course I started. Okay, I came to Cape Town initially for studying. I went to university, and I moved in there by Dr. Bouah's house, everyone. So getting into that environment, I think, was one of the main things that actually just I think it was the catalyst for everything. The potential was there. I think I just came off maybe a win from the EP closed. I think I played in the EP closed for the first time and I won it with Jacques Ophoff and Freddie Orendal, Swen, everybody playing in there. But I only got to 1960. And when I got to Cape Town, I stayed at your house. And well, first of all, if anybody has been at Lyndon's house in Bellna, the library is quite impressive. If you are hungry for chess, then yeah, all you need to basically do is just put on the kettle, and you can be burning the midnight oil all night through. So an abundance of material available, and just the culture in Cape Town was amazing. Everybody, I mean, I joined the Steiner's Chess Club, and at that time we were still the club was like getting together on a weekly basis. London, I think so. So uh, the everybody for me it was chess heaven because Whereas in Somerset East, I was like the only guy that was interested in chess. My older brother, who's about 4 years older than me, went to varsity and started working and dropped chess already. Nobody, from myself being isolated, all of a sudden there's an abundance of people that are quite keen and are super competitive. So alone in my club, all of a sudden I need to try to fight to just make the A team and show myself my own worth over here. So yeah, I think just everything was, and of course the tournaments was completely available here. So I think the hunger was there. I got introduced, or I got exposed to everything a chess player should want to do. By the way, I didn't know there was something like a SA Open. Maybe just before I finished school. So when I got here, I started playing everything, and I think that's the key for people to improve. You must be hungry. You must play as much as you can, and you must also absorb. I think that's also important, or important to do. There's, as a chess player, you should always have an open ear. I mean, there's so many different viewpoints and people with experience. Even in my club, we had London, we had Mark Lewis, we had the Wallenberg brothers, we had even the older players, even the older Wallenbergs. We had the famous Dion Solomons as well. So all that I needed to do is just absorb it basically, and handle the competitiveness basically. So for me at the beginning, it was just about fun. It was just feeding my hunger for chess basically.
Calvin, I think that one of the things that I often tell people is that you must play, and that is certainly something that you did. As you said, you absorbed all these tournaments within the chess culture. But I also recall that you didn't have a difficulty in analyzing your games, either with me or with anyone that wanted to, because that analysis of the games is also important. Do you still see analyzing your games as important today?
Yeah, no, I think that's maybe the most critical thing that you have to do. That is very important. So if you don't do anything else, I mean, you should do that. So play as much as you can and analyze your games and try to improve on that. And of course, if you have someone to analyze with, then that's just great, because a lot of times it is difficult to kind of investigate and scrutinize on yourself. So it's good to have an outside perspective coming in. It doesn't really matter to a certain degree what the outside perspective's rating is, as long as they're just looking at it from outside and trying to get a feel for where's things going wrong and so on. But it's important. I mean, we see it, we read about it from the Botvinnik School of Chess and all of those things as part of them. Doing your annotations and just scrutinizing and trying to improve along the way. So, and I mean, in a club situation, I think Steiner's Chess Club was basically, I don't know, the one of the most influential places to be, because if you would play a tournament and you'd finish a tournament and people were together at, for instance, at London's house, I mean, everybody wants to see what's happening. Everybody's got their opinion. Everybody's asking, why not this? Why not that? Let's see what happened. And everybody's got their own strong opinion. So I think analyzing your games and just having that chess culture about being keen and sharing with other people and being open to hear other people's opinions is very important. And I got that easily in the environment that I was in.
Calvin, thanks for that. And you set up the scene now that we go from 2006 sort of to 2008. Was Malawi, the African Juniors, the first time that you played on the continent outside of South Africa?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think it might have been. It's either Malawi or my other. I'm not sure which one I did first, because I played in the World Under-20s. In Armenia.
The World Under-20s in Armenia.
Yes, that was in Armenia. It's either World Under-20s or Malawi.
But let's talk about the both tournaments. How did it come about, and how did you play in Malawi and in Armenia? Because of course Armenia is a classical chess country, and Malawi is hosting the African individuals next month. And we know of the strong players like Joseph Mwale and others that we know so well. So how did you find Malawi and Armenia, Calvin? Because those were your sort of junior tournaments before we get to the senior tournaments.
Well, okay, so this is special to me, these tournaments. I think it might have been Armenia, my first tournament, because I remember in Malawi having a Fide Elo of something like 1900. So when we used to start, those days when I started, you didn't have a Elo, I think. And so after that Armenian trip, I probably had a 1900 Elo. Yes, it was that low because the World Juniors was a huge eye opener for me. I think playing internationally definitely gives you a huge benefit just from experience wise.
Mm.
The actual games, yes, I learned from that as well, but just from experience, I gathered so much and so much motivation and clarity on what needs to be done work wise that I got again a lot of perspective and I still remember. Okay, from that trip, it was a nice trip for me. I had we were three guys and one girl. It was myself. It was Dewald Niemand and Matthew Jonker, two good friends of mine. And these two guys were more experienced than myself. This was my debut, but they were used to things already.
Yeah.
And the Jager, Carmen de Jager was the female player there. So I think Carmen's dad came along as well. So it was a nice trip. But the tournament was vicious. Like I was one of the top juniors here on my side, and I was used to locally you start a tournament, you start off by getting in a couple of easy wins, and then you start warming up, and then later on it becomes more difficult, especially if you're one of the top rated players in your section. Then Armenia, things started heavy very quickly. So I realized that I think it was 11 rounds or 13 rounds. I'm not sure which. Could have been 13, but every round was a battle. Every round
Yeah, of course.
was tough. Basically, the top players of each country is coming together and showing their best. So to me, it was just a huge eye opener because I had to work hard every game. And even the games where I thought I was going to get easy games, it ended up not being easy. And I ended up getting a dismal score. I think I got something like 3 points maybe, or 3.5 out of it's either 11 or 13. So it was a horrible experience for me. I think I could have scored maybe 2 or 3 points more in the event, just from lack of grit and tenacity. Some games I could have won and then I throw it away. I remember playing Dewald actually, and Dewald wanted to draw, and I kept on pressing in a slightly better position, and ending up losing. But just the experience itself, and of course the coach for this trip was Dion Solomons, and yeah, Dion also. I still remember a few things that Dion was saying, but Dion is also a guy that's been motivating me throughout my career, and during that trip, even though I had some bad results, Dion would motivate me and even talk to us all and say that look, this experience. In fact, I remember on the plane, I think it was coming back or going, probably coming back, but Dion said, look, the result is not going to be so important, your actual score, but you realize when you come back that you'll become much stronger, and that was the case.
Yeah.
Just because here in South Africa the work rate is not high. That's the main point. The players don't, like the top players. You maybe the top 10 in the country work hard. When it comes to age groups as well, you'll see that maybe the top player or top two will work. The rest of the time, you just scrape by on talent or whatever. And I realized that you need to work. You need to work. And that tournament brought that to me. So that was Armenia. I loved exploring the country as well. Armenia loves chess, and you could see it all over. Of course, Tiger and Petrosian's country and Levoneronian's country as well. So very interesting country. They love chess and great experience. And then Malawi was also fantastic. who was with me in Malawi? I think Ryan was with me. Thank you to MRG for following, by the way.
Is it not Kono Klaver also?
Kono Klaver was the coach, and also I think Melissa Greef was there. Melissa Greef.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there was any other guy with. I don't remember, but right. it was a nice experience. What happened in that one? I came close to getting my IM title in that one. Actually, I came second in the event. I think I was supposed to get my FM title in that event, but I never collected it. Years later, I collected it at zonals in Namibia. But Gunther was also on that trip. Gunther mentioned that in our last reflections as well. But yes, it was a great experience to meet the African players on and off the board. Was brilliant. It was a brilliant experience. I love the African tournaments. The players itself, the players, they are so tenacious and dynamic. They might not have the best theory around, but if you give them a chance, they are not gonna let go. They are not gonna let go, and they go for it. So you learn something from these events as well. I think these type of big events, even if sometimes you get crushed a bit, it kind of molds you and gives you some direction. So it was a great experience. I kind of faltered there in the last round. In the last round, I was half a point behind the leader, Karim Vaghay from Egypt. And in the last round, Karim played my other friend, Erickson Suarez. Erickson missed the first round, and he was playing behind the whole tournament. And he was seed number 2, and he came back and he beat Karim in the last round. And then I needed a draw, but I ended up losing to Rodwell Makoto in the last round as well. So we both lost, and I ended up second. So great experience. I met a lot of good friends that I still are in contact with today. So yeah, I love Malawi. And and by the way, I met Joseph Mwale. Joseph was very small and short that time. He didn't know too much English, but yeah, it is quite interesting to see him many years later coming out as the great player that he is now.
No, thanks for those recollections, Calvin. And of course, Armenia, a great chess nation. They've won the Olympiad a number of times as well. And of course, as you said, Petrosian and Vaganian, Laputian, Akopian, all of those great players that come from Armenia. And then, of course, Malawi has become a great chess nation as well, and even as is hosting a great number of tournaments as well. So thanks for those recollections, Calvin. I want to get on to your SA close and your senior debut now. But before then, it's now 27 minutes past 7. Let's take some questions in the chat box. Calvin, I'm going to allow you to read on the chat box, and then you can just answer your own question as well. So please go ahead.
Okay, lovely. So yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat box. It seems quite welcoming here. I have to just double check myself. I haven't been keeping an eye as I usually do. So welcome to everyone. Thanks for the new followers as well. So let's see. First question that I see here is from Babiki. Babiki says, "What keeps you inspired to continuing playing chess?" Yeah, okay. So I think it's important to be inspired to improve. So first of all, it's fun. So I would say to my juniors that I coach as well, you can do a lot of things, you can focus on a lot, but you must enjoy the game. So it's very much a pleasure for me playing. Doesn't matter what the result, and so it is. I think playing tournaments is the most fun thing for me to do in the whole world. So I remember as a junior, I would look forward during the year to just get to the end of the year, because that would be my holiday away from everyone, just playing tournaments. So it's very much fun, and of course chess is also very beautiful. It's aesthetically pleasing sometimes to play a beautiful game. I love positional games. Okay, that can maybe end in some tactics, but there's many different types of beautiful games that you can see, and of course it's so much better if you can compose them yourself, to play them yourself. So just what inspires me, the beauty of the game. It's fun to play, and of course just looking at the great players, the past champions, and locally here as well. It's just fun to see the competitiveness, and the game of chess really it's a sport for me, because you have to be on point. You have to manage your heart rate. You have to do a lot of things. So that's what keeps me inspired. Um, yeah, that's the short version of it. There's so many other things, but I'll keep it at that. Let's see what else is there in the chat box. King Ulster says, for Calvin, was the coaching side always your vision, or did the goal start off as purely competitiveness? Okay, that's a good question. So I would say the coaching was not initially part of the plan, but okay, I played for the fun of it. After school, I also continued playing. It was never an option for me to stop playing because it was so much fun. I went to university, but ended up not really doing well at varsity because I ended up playing more chess than everything else. So I tried many things in my life, but always the one thing that remained consistent was chess. So after a bit of this and that, I realized that how about I just put in everything into chess, and I've been loving it ever since. And of course, unfortunately, in this country, you can't just play chess and make a living off it. So the coaching came naturally afterwards, and I've actually grown into the coaching business quite nicely. I think I do quite well in it, and I enjoy it very much. So yeah, from coaching perspective, it wasn't initially the goal, but I think it's a perfect matchup for me as a player. Thanks for that question, King Ulster. Okay, let's see. Dr. Queenie. Dr. Queenie says, hi, Calvin. Did you have any role models in chess whilst growing up, local and international? Okay, let's see. So, growing up, first of all, my first role model probably has to be the guy that taught me the game, Master Calvin Klaasen. I think he represented Eastern Province on board one year, I think under 18 or under 20 or something like this. And yeah, he inspired me. His temperament at open tournaments and at tournaments in general. He was serious about the game. He was cutting out newspaper articles, and those days there weren't many online stuff to check. But yeah, he gave me that. He introduced me to Fritz 5 as well. I always joke that was my first ever coach, Fritz 5. And he introduced me to the scientific side as well of chess, just to do things in a scientific or from a research point of view as well. So yeah, my older brother, of course, big role model, and but he also introduced me at that time when I started playing. Of course, the legend Garry Kasparov. I ended up, or I would say probably Garry is probably the main reason why I play the openings I play. And if you look at Garry, he played the Sicilian. I started off my career playing Sicilian, and Garry played a lot of E4 games. Okay, I afterwards realized he also does some D4 and so on. But I basically just based my play off Garry and my brother, and both of these guys played the same openings, since my brother probably took his stuff from Garry as well. So, and then years later, after maturing, I started realizing that Karpov is actually not so bad at all. He became one of my favorites as well. So I think it takes a bit of maturity to realize that Karpov's games are also quite beautiful. Yeah, so I would say Kasparov, Karpov. Locally, let's see. Locally, who was there? I mean, there were certain guys that were up there, but I didn't really know them yet, so it was difficult. From a local perspective, it would be the people mentioned earlier from Eastern Province, like Kromot was there, and the Safirs and those type of guys, and Alex Kromot him. So I would say locally that would be the case. Later on, I met Watu and Kenny and so on. So yeah, but I think those are the main influences on me. Of course, I studied the other world champions as well, but I think those two, Kasparov and Karpov, were the main influences, I would say. Okay, so let's see. Next question. Guys, my keyboard isn't working this evening for some reason, so I'm working on my keyboard on my laptop. So things are going slightly slower. King also says another question: which person, GM or otherwise, do you feel influenced your coaching approach and methods? Okay, so that is a no-brainer for me. When I came to Cape Town for the second time and established myself here, Roland Wallenberg took me in. Basically, I stayed at Roland's house, and he's basically the main guy when it comes to coaching. He made it look to me. He made it possible to see that coaching can be a chess coach can be a viable option as a job long term wise. So yeah, definitely he was the main influence. There were so many other influences. Of course, London is also quite influential in many parts of my chess career. But coaching wise, definitely Roland Wallenberg. He taught me a lot of the art. He gave me lots of advice over the years. I still do get advice from him. So yeah, no, I think okay. I coached in Port Elizabeth for a couple of years, but when I came to Cape Town, I learned a lot more as a coach. So yeah, that's what I would say the biggest influence coaching wise. Okay, so not too many questions left. Let's just see here. Patrick, thanks again, Patrick, for joining us. Patrick says South Africa has been caught by its neighbors Zambia and Zimbabwe in chess. Is this because promising players like you, Nicholas van der Nat and Daniel Cordery, focusing on early coaching instead of pursuing a chess career to see how far you could go before considering coaching? I would say yes and no. Probably more no than yes, because I don't think the coaching should be an escape route for or an excuse for us improving as players. I think you can do both to a certain extent, unless you are going up aiming for 2600 or 2700. I don't think you. I think you have enough time in the day if you can utilize your hours correctly in the day. I think you can be a coach and be a strong player. But like I said earlier, I think the culture and the work ethic in South Africa is not there. Of course, the reward as a player is also not so great right now, or it hasn't been so great as a player, and that I think is also something that could be helped on. But I've heard the saying that if you become a coach that you can't be a great player anymore. I don't think that's the case. It's about applying yourself, and as like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, if you like a lot of sleep, then he suggests you just sleep faster. So you need to utilize your hours, guys. So okay, so let's move on to the next one. Dr. Queenie, how do you deal with stress, anxiety, tensed feelings during a tournament? That is a difficult one. I'm going to try to keep it short, guys. But I think a lot, if you have those type of feelings during a game, I think a lot helps to play a lot. First of all, a lot of experience. If you get into a situation where you've never been in, it's always going to be scary. If you play next year the same tournament and you get into the same situation, you might just handle it twice as much better as the last time. So experience helps, and of course practice at home is very important. If you are nervous about your openings, studying at home and doing it and playing online a lot really helps. Michael Jordan said that people asked him how does he do it, or how did he feel during that moments of brilliance, and he would I remember him in one interview just saying that it's when he was doing it on the court, it's like he wasn't doing it, he was there, but all the hours of practice he put in before was basically what made him do what he did. So practicing at home, I think, helps with a lot of things. Certain things you have to experience for yourself. I mean, people banging the clock or shuffling around. I mean, the famous Watu maneuvers as well. Shout out to Watu. You have to get used to these things. So experience does help, and also just developing grit and just motivating yourself to just keep on going is quite important. So I think every player has to kind of figure out himself how to handle these situations, but expecting the boat to rock a bit before it happens also helps, I would say. So I hope that gives you some. I hope that helps you, if at all. Okay. Hi, Sean. Sean Wallenberg, welcome. He says, just a comment. Thanks for all you have done for Chess SA. We absolutely love your channel. Keep going. Thanks so much, Sean, for the comment. And then, okay, he says, when will be the big day? The big day is, of course, 11 September. Yeah, that's when I will be promoting myself, I guess. So that's 11 September. Let's see. And then we basically done now, guys. 2 more comments here. Early B, our subscriber, one of our previous subscribers, Calvin, you make the Eastern Cape proud. Thanks so much, Early B. Yes, proudly Eastern Province. I love Eastern Cape. And then Monster Frick says, hi Calvin, I've noticed that you have become quite a busy man lately. How do you manage with such a tight schedule? I mean, playing a good chess game takes dedication and time to stay well above average. Streaming chess can go hectic too, and then also your own private life too. But you seem to stay on top of things all the time. What's your winning recipe? Okay, so I think I still need to test everything. This coming weekend is actually the Western Province Open, and I don't think I've played in a serious event, London, since streaming. So I still have to test a bit of my theories, Monster Frick. But besides the streaming, the coaching, and the playing and the private life, I think it's important. I don't always stick to this, but I think it's important to have a schedule. Of course, in my business sector, it's strictly by schedule, but also when it comes to your playing and trying to improve, it's also important to have a type of schedule of training and figuring out which tournaments to play and just planning ahead what you want to achieve and so on. So that's very important. Yeah, and of course your personal life is also important. You need to somehow have a base where a supporting structure, and I'm lucky to have Robin in my life where she also understands chess. She's played chess, and my family also supports me, and I've got wonderful friends as well. So I think I've been blessed overall to have a good support structure chess wise. So yeah, I think that's it for now in the chat box. Thanks everyone for the questions. Yeah, if you do have any more questions, you can throw it in the chat. But I think that's been a mouthful from my side. Lyndon, over to you.
Yep. No, thanks a lot, Calvin. And yeah, no, look, I mean, the viewers, they are very interested in many aspects, Calvin, because of course you started the stream during lockdown, just when lockdown started, and we're very happy that you have. So I've got 2 or 3 questions, and it's about your senior chess. We're going to get to that. Calvin, can you tell us which 3 books have influenced you the most?
Oof, that's a bit difficult. I've been flying around the book so much, not necessarily finishing them all, but okay. I would say first of all, I would say a series by Garrick as part of my great predecessors that was super influential to me. I of course got to know it there by your house, Lyndon. Lyndon probably has all of the volumes there. Each book is like 500 pages, and Gary did a great job at making it entertaining, I would say. I not only went through games, but he also tried to paint a bit of a picture of how the game evolved and gave a bit of background on the players and the world champions, and some that were even not world champions, but influential in that time period. So I think my great predecessors is a big favorite of mine. And then let's see what else. There's so many books. There was a pink book I remember, also there by London's library, by Dvoretsky, and might be Arthur Yusupov as well, positional chess or something like this. That one I also I really liked. Because Dvoretsky loves emphasizing prophylactic play, and I think that comes in a lot in my play. But it should be it should be natural for all the top players. It's not the only thing that you do. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. And one of my recent favorites is actually Python Strategy. Also a compilation of Tiger and Petrosian.
Petrosian.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if I think about it, I think all the books came out of your library, Lyndon. So just to tell the viewers, I have read other books as well, but I mean, Lyndon does have an impressive one over there. So yeah, so all of those books I enjoyed very much. So there's my top three that I can think of right now.
No, thanks, Calvin. I think, I've also been thinking a bit about it, and I probably wouldn't be able to give a top three because there are so many great books out nowadays and some great authors and the like. And as you said, whether you go from Dovetsky to Kasparov, I mean, even the books by Tal and these guys that show their great games, and there's such a lot of great biographies, Mikhail Botvinnik and others that it's very, very difficult. But Calvin, let's talk a bit about your senior chess, because I think watching your career develop, and I was part of the first parts when you started making your debut in the SA Close. Calvin, which year did you play your first SA Close? Was it 07 or 09?
SA Closed 07 was my first one. 07.
Your first one, 07, and if I'm not mistaken, you were playing okay in that one. I mean, you were playing up against the big boys there for the first time.
Yes, no,
What
that was
recollections?
that was also, I would say, one of the events that opened up my eyes. Huge influence on my career. I got into this event purely because I was the national junior champion at the time. So at that time, they were still inviting the junior champions to the event. I was on a bit of a high because I actually won the SA Junior Closed with full score. And then I came to this event, and then round one I get Henry Steele. So Henry not the player that time yet that he is right now, but Henry even still won the event. So Henry, I got Henry round one. I had my chances over there. I feel like I was doing quite fine, and at some point things just went downhill at the end. I think his composure when the clock went down was just way better than mine. So the first game I lost, but I think I bounced back immediately in round two against Kagelo Mosetle. Also a player I rate very high, lots of talent, super strong player. So I always enjoy seeing Kagelo and or KG as I call him. But the event itself was beautiful. These type of things, as a SA player, as a South African, you will want to play in these type of events. It opens up your eyes. It shows you it's one of these events again that you can't slack. You have to work hard every round. You need to be on your toes. You need to. They're coming for you basically. You're playing tournament winners every single round. So it was a huge eye opener. I got to play, I think, Watu Kobese for the first time, perhaps, or maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, perhaps it was the first time there. I got to play Kenny Solomon. That time he was still an IM. That was great to play Watu, Kenny. Opov was there. Mabusela was there. I think Mabu actually got his. He made the team for the first time that year, and that also inspired me. I remember that year, and I'm gonna repeat it again, guys. I've said it on the show already on previous shows, but I remember. I think we were all staying at your house, and Mabu was traveling with us, and Mabu was saying when it became clear, or when the tournament was almost done, he was saying, "Okay, Calvin, from now on, my title is the Great International Master Olympiad player, Johannes Mabusela." So he had to squeeze that into his title over there. And that inspired me basically because I also didn't know what this Olympiad thing about. And then I heard of this, and this is the way you get through. And in fact, it was nice. In fact, I got so close in my first event. I think I needed like a win in the last round, then I would have made the team. And I think I ended up losing my last two rounds. It's so tough. I lost to Mabusela second last round, I think, and last round I lost to Jacques Opov. So I crashed there at the end, but a brilliant experience. And these are the type of things again that just push you into working much harder. I think there's moments in your career that you must gain inspiration, and such big events definitely work well for me.
Now,
Yeah.
but Calvin, we've seen now that, I mean, you listening to you, it's clear that you learn from these losses, and you also learn from wherever you've ended in the tournament. Because what was interesting for me was that you've played that one in 2007, and then you got chosen for the Zone 4.3 team to go to Mozambique in 2008. And I was captain of that team, and your teammates was in fact KG, Johan Steenkamp,
and Van der Nat.
and Van der Nat and David Gluckman.
Yeah.
And how did you find that experience there in Mozambique? Because I believe you guys ate a lot of chicken there.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, they like the chicken over there. It was brilliant. I mean, besides from the fact that you learn more chess wise, you also just get to know your peers. You get to know these players, and that is important. I think if you don't have this culture, again, I'm mentioning this. If you don't have that culture, if you don't have the camaraderie amongst the players, if you just stay isolated, you think you are a top player and you can do everything yourself. You are depriving yourself and the country, basically. So getting to know the players, getting to know each other, and just getting a feel. Sometimes, you know what, it's not about trying to learn variations from another guy. It's just absorbing and seeing how he handles situations, how he carries himself during a tournament. I remember when I was super young and just getting to know what to. I mean, a guy like that, you just hang on his lips, basically. Everything he says, you just listen to what he's saying. Doesn't matter what he's saying. He could be saying he could be talking about his weekend or he's gonna have a coffee, but either way, you're not trying to miss anything. And I think that's the problem sometimes with the youngsters nowadays. They they don't uh, they don't try to absorb as much as they can. They learn a bit and then they don't try to, even if your player is not as good or as great as you think he is, but just try to absorb as much as you can. And I think that Mozambique trip was great because it was my debut as a senior player, and that was a huge psychological barrier that I broke. And when you've achieved something like that, then you feel a bit more responsibility on your shoulders, and you feel like when you get back home, you need to also perform well. So it pushes you to work harder.
No, for certain. Now, Calvin, you've basically become a regular participant at the SA Close, and nowadays you can't even think of a SA Close without the name Klaasen also. And I mean, you've played now in all the last, let's call it the last 10 years. I mean, so when I think about it, you played from 2007, and in 2017, you finally come join first in the SA Close with Mabusela. And so what was the secret in those 10 years? Was it consistency of work, discipline, commitment, dedication? How do you see your I mean, you went from getting a low score to becoming one of the top players and becoming a seasoned player, to put it that way.
Yes, no. I've had a long run in the SA Closed. I did miss one SA Closed. In fact, I missed the 2009 one. That was a very sad year for me.
Yeah.
I definitely kept an eye on the event. I think Nicholas van der Nat won that one emphatically. It's funny.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a closed with Nick, and every time I see Nick play, he wins it. So, but anyway, so I think the first one that I played in 07, I was the junior champion, and then the next cycle I actually didn't make it because my rating was too low. I was like bordering maybe end of 2000, maybe 2100, and I didn't make it. Super sad. And again, I think there's the moments in my career where I've actually considered just stopping, do something else. Let's be a normal person.
Yeah.
But so I think it is normal to think like that, but you must get some motivation again. And after I made the Olympia team, eventually I'll go through it a bit. But after I made the team, I also tell or joke a lot that I think I worked for about 10 years just to make the Olympia team. because I
Yeah.
started in 07 and eventually I think I made the Olympiad team before I won it with Mabu in 2017.
2016.
2016 or something. I actually got into the team, so it was
Yes.
almost like a 10-year that kind of trip, and it was hard work. It was getting battered and coming back and uh, going back to the drawing board. And I don't think I would have survived all of this if I didn't love the game, first of all. So it was for me so exciting to play amongst the best. Just to be in the
Yeah.
tournament was amazing. And I, of course, I absorbed here and there. I took my advice from Mabu as well. Mabu gave me lots of advice without him knowing it sometimes even. But um, with experience, things get easier sometimes. But I would say after that first experience, getting so close, it started getting more tough. I've had some rough essay closed. I don't know if it's the next one or the one after that. Somewhere along there, I actually ended up last, I think. And I still remember telling you, Lyndon, that or the thing about Lyndon, guys, is sometimes he has to how shall I say push you in the right direction or instructively criticize you. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but sometimes a coach needs to be stern or let you know what's happening. And Lyndon, this after this close, was asking me about what's going on here or whatever, and I just stubbornly said, look, I'm gonna be the first guy to end up last in the essay close and first. So that was my goal, and I think it's important actually to set mini goals for yourself. What when you talking about the 2017 essay closed, I think what made it much easier for me to achieve this was the previous essay closed, where I actually made the Olympiad team. Again, another
Right.
major milestone, a psychological barrier that I went through, and just having accomplished it becomes easier. So there's huge clouds over my head, wanting to make the team forever, and finally I made it. Now all of a sudden, um, that wasn't the main goal, or it was the goal. I've done it before. Now we can look at bigger and better things. So psychologically, that was what happened. But also, I would say from the period of me making the Olympiad team, when I made the Olympiad team, or maybe just before even it started, um, I think the reason why I made that Olympiad team in 2016 was the fact that I started consciously um, I started consciously making decisions trying to improve my game. We all are young.
Good.
We all do things, or we all try to have fun. And to be honest, I think I just had way too much fun during tournaments. So at a certain point, you realize you can't go out partying or not focus on your game, and win a tournament at the same time all the time. That just doesn't work. So what also helped me, I think that this is one of the key things that helped me, and maybe this is something, if you don't take anything home, guys, maybe take this. One of the main things that I've done throughout my career is whether I'm in under 16 section or the under 18s or in the seniors or university, I always used to scrutinize and look at the top players in my section. I used to look and see, okay, who is the top guy in my age group now? Under 16s, okay, Dewald Niemand, he won it, or he's 2000 rated in under 16 event. Who is this guy? What is he doing? What is he playing? And Craig Wallenberg, also 2000. He's under 16. Matthew Jonker, also 2000. These guys, even Cecile van der Merwe was like 1900 or something. In those days, I was like 1500, 1600. So I used to scrutinize the top players and I used to check out their games. And it went over as well to the senior players, where I would scrutinize the top players, Watu, Kodri, Kenny, Donovan, all the top players. And you learn from them. And what also helped me was the fact that when I checked out the Olympiad games, these guys that dominated locally, they got punished a lot of times. overseas. So the people that we think are the top here in our country, they don't do so great overseas. So there is scope for me to get in. So it's not a question whether they do great. It's just I need to improve. So those type of things. But the decision I made to be more serious, applying myself during tournaments. I think Daniel Caudry mentioned it when he won his essay closed. He mentioned specifically in that event, he was very disciplined. He stopped doing the things that he usually does that hinders chess. So I did that, and I also surrounded myself with the right people. Sometimes just people that your best friends can sometimes just take you away from learning and improving in chess. So it might not be their problem, it's just your problem. You need to focus on what you need to do chess wise. So I think just mentally maturing a bit. I think I made the team. I could have made the team early on with my capabilities, but I didn't apply myself. And it's all about applying yourself. This myth or this idea of chess, you don't know where to work on. Believe me, guys, if you work on chess, you will improve. That's the bottom line. You need to work hard at chess. So yeah, I think I just worked a lot harder during that period, closer to the end of 2007.
Calvin, I've got about 2 or 3 more questions before we go to 2 or 3 of your games. When I was preparing this afternoon for our interview, I was realizing that 2017 was actually a very good year for you, because you did well. I mean, you did excellently at the essay close. But I also realized that your club, MRL, won the Western Province League that year, and you were leading on board 1. And MRL won every league match that they contested that year. So how did you combine that excellent play? I nearly want to say for the 2017 season, because you were playing well. Because I still recall 2015, you and I played at the Steinitz close, at Steinitz Open. 2016, we played again at the Steinitz Open, and in 2017, you became unstoppable. Because I mean, then you just demolished me over the board when we played our league match. But 2017 seemed to have been a fantastic year for you. What did you do differently in that year besides, as you said now, focusing and preparing?
Yes, no, thanks, Lennon, for that. I think, yeah, that was a great year, by the way. I think winning the Western Province League with MRL was special for me. Of course, that's Robin's club, or dad's club, Lorenzo. And I think that was the second year. MRL, I joined MRL, and the first year we actually ended, it could be, is it sixth or is it third? I think it might have been third. I think the year before that, when I was not with them, they were sixth, ended up sixth. And the first year I joined them, we ended third. And then the second year with them, we actually won it. So that was special for me. I mean, okay, again, I joke about 10 years of working for the Olympiad spot, but I think I played for Steinitz for about 10 years as well. If you consider when I started playing for MRL. So roughly for 10 years as well. But the performances were great. I think I was on an all-time high that time. Going into the essay closed, I was probably the second seed, just below Watu. I was at the rating of 2300, Elo and Chesa. I was at the top of the Grand Prix as well. I was winning everything here locally. In fact, it was myself and Watu on the Grand Prix, I would say. I'm not sure about Caudry. Caudry is always there at the top, but but besides Caudry and Watu, I was actually competing with Watu, and the rest I was far ahead on Grand Prix. So I was just in the best shape of my life chess wise. I was playing a lot. I was performing well, and I was in a great space. And when it comes to what I did more, besides the fact that I consciously adjusted myself, I think what I also did, and I forgot to mention that this is actually important as well. When I made the Olympia team the first time, I started playing online chess. So it was not
Okay.
something that I did in general. I know in the olden days, I used to hear the other guys, even when I got to the Olympiad, guys like Audrey and Donny talking about ICC and playing online, and you're already hiding your handle name because you don't want people to see your games and so on. But that was pretty new to me. I didn't play a lot, but after I made the team, I thought to myself, I need to do a lot more training, and I started playing online, and eventually during this period when I was actually peaking in 2017, I was playing consistently online as well, and not just playing, using it as an instructive type of or in an instructive way, trying to improve your openings, going back, going through the games, and trying to improve in that sense. I remember one thing as well that it helped me with a lot was my time management, because I'm notoriously bad with my time. I get into time trouble a lot. I spend a lot of time. And uh, I just remember that, yeah, those days it was the standard time interval is of course 30-second increment to our time, but I started off with the 5 minutes, and then maybe three. Eventually, I went down to 3 minutes and 30 seconds, or so, no, not 3:30. Eventually, I went down to 3 minutes and 2 second increment, and I
Okay.
eventually got to the point where, okay, I'm handling 3+2. I can win games online where I've got 10 seconds left. I'm comfortable with my 2 second increment, and
Mm.
now coming back to normal over the board chess, you have an hour on the clock, or maybe an hour and a half, and you have a 30-second increment. So usually when I get down to 5 minutes, I would get nervous. But 5 minutes with a 30-second increment is like so much time now. So
Mm.
I could literally go down to 30 seconds even, and play with that 30 seconds. And the one main thing that you must be able to do as a top player, that situation usually you must handle well, being able to stay calm and still think clearly during that period, because a lot of players, myself included, I've done it in the past, where you get nervous and you start whipping out moves, and then you don't utilize your increment. So that became a huge plus for me as well, being able to stay calm, and I would convert more games. I would be able to.
Okay.
You get a lot of advantages against top players, but I would falter. I would throw away wins. I would even lose games. But that was a big game changer for me, being able to stay calm and to convert in these low time situations. So playing online constructively is a very important, I would say.
Calvin, thank you very much for that. And I think tonight's discussion obviously has led to even more questions, because a lot of the youngsters would want to know how you played in those SA Opens. And I think perhaps next season, when we have another opportunity to engage with you, we're probably going to need to look at, let's call it, how you prepare your openings, or what do you do against uncomfortable opponents. And I think those are questions that I would like you to think about, because in our last sort of half an hour now, as we go towards 8:30, I'd like you to show us two of your games to illustrate that play. But Calvin, I also just want to take 2 or 3 minutes just to see if there are any questions in the chat box. But thank you very much for answering my questions. I want to go to the games, but let's see if there are any questions from any of our subscribers, Calvin.
Yes, I think we have one question or two, maybe. Let's just check it out.
Sure.
Angel Bright also said good evening. And
Evening.
Babiki says the essay closed is so many rounds. How do you make sure you don't burn out? Yeah, that's quite important. I think planning it again in advance is very important. To be physically in shape as well helps a lot. And yeah, the planning is important, not just how you get there physically to the event and so on, but also looking at your opponents, and timing. Who are we going to push really hard against? Who are we going to relax slightly with and be able and be fine with a draw against, and so on and so on. So that type of things is very important during the closed, and also being well prepared on the board, I think, is very, very important. It makes your life easier, and it doesn't if you get burnt out every opening, you'll be tired pretty soon. So knowing your openings well is important, knowing your endgame theory. So just being well prepared on the chessboard, and also preparing for the event and the logistics, and being physically fit helps a lot. So yeah, a lot of mental preparation goes into it. I think the half of winning the event is just a mental thing. So very, very important to do that. Um, yeah, and Early B says, what is your aspirations in chess? Do you have any specific goal in mind? Yes, okay, so I do have aspirations. Of course, the pandemic has kind of uh, put everything in a bit of a blur. But of course, I would love to still become international master and one day even grandmaster. But with these strange times we live in, I would definitely want to at least get to IM at some point. So that's my short-term goals. And of course, coaching-wise, I'd also like to produce some more titled players from my students as well. Yeah, so that's a short answer there for you, Early B. Milky Shake says, good evening. Question: how will you be approaching this over-the-board tournament this weekend after not playing chess in just over a year? Whew, that's a rough one, actually. I think I'm just gonna try to be as prepared as I can for um, on the board, but I think it's gonna be a new experience for me. It's kind of like starting off again. So not too sure yet. Not too sure yet. I think I'm gonna try to do what I usually do: take it one game at a time and not underestimate anyone. You might start to see people surfacing that that weren't known before the lockdown because they've put in some effort. So so I'm gonna continue doing my thing, but just try to be well prepared for the event, basically. Okay, shake. Okay. Wim says, how do you manage your energy levels during long events? Getting older, do you find you fatigue more than when you were 20ish? Definitely. I think getting older definitely also taught me not to go out late during tournaments, to get in enough sleep, to to have a bit of a routine. I think when you're young, when you like 20, you can get everything right. But I would suggest that the 20-year-olds still take it serious and still give yourself enough time, still get into a routine, because that molds you and gets you it gives you, it basically maximizes your potential. So don't over or abuse your youthfulness. Rather get into the stage where you actually have a routine. You get up a certain time, you eat at a certain time, and you prepare at a certain time, so that your body can actually react to that naturally. Um, for that. And of course, nowadays you okay. I picked up late on it, but you can also try to eat properly during events. Maybe try to stay away from sugary stuff. It's not always the best thing to have during a game. So you see guys like Watu and works. Watu likes these type of biscuits or nuts or bananas is a favorite from a lot of people as well. So trying to eat healthy and be physically fit again is the way to go, Wim. So yeah, I think that's all the questions in the chat box. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, so I'm ready to go over to the
Yep.
chessboard, Lyndon. Let's
Yep, let's do that, Calvin. We now need to see some of those great games. And just to remind viewers that at the 2018 Olympiad in Georgia, Calvin beat two grandmasters that he played against, and those were fantastic wins as well. He has shown it previously on the show when we were looking at beating the grandmasters, etc. But today, Calvin, I think you've got one or two other games for us to have a look at. Maybe you want to tell us where the first game was played.
yes. So yeah, no, you can also check those guys like the beat how to beat the grandmaster on YouTube, guys. It's available. Sorry, it's available for you there. So these two games I've selected, maybe just memorable games. The first one was played in the tournament in Malawi, African Juniors 2008, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, I had the black pieces. I think you'll like the opening at least, London. This was an interesting one. So oh, and Dolph just saying, yeah, Nick always drilled that Gauteng South made us sleep and eat well. Yeah, that's very important, Dolph. So anyways, So yeah, this was the event where I came second in African Juniors. I think this was one of my favorite games. Yeah, here we go.
Sure.
So d4, knight f6, d4, g6, bishop g7. And yes, I was a King's Indian player in my day. I think I've started playing it a bit again later on. But of course, I think actually in this tournament, if you guys check, this tournament is where I started playing the Namzo. It was just a flash. It was nothing prepared in round one. I think I played Andrew Kayonde. Shout out to Andrew. That time he wasn't an IM yet. But I played Andrew and I just decided to play the Namzo. Yeah, that was around one. I just didn't want to fall into prep. Yeah, I went back to my usual King's Indian at the time. And so pawn to f3, very formidable structure. Castle, bishop to e3, e5. So there's lots of theory. I don't think e5 nowadays is the main move. But white continues with d5. I go pawn to c6, bishop d3, takes, knight h5. And yeah, I didn't know any theory here, but I saw one or two of Kasparov's games and I kind of just mixed everything. Queen to d2, pawn to f5. So I need to immediately start putting pressure. Of course, I played c6 and takes on d5 just to discourage white into long castling. And next we are continuing with our standard King's Indian play. Bishop g5 looked a bit odd to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took a bit of time, but eventually I decided to play bishop to f6. So I didn't want to move my queen. H6 wasn't available after that as well. And if you look at the structure, one day if black closes or not, if you look at the fixed pawns, black's darksword bishop is actually not a great piece. And if you think about white's bishops, this bishop on d3 is usually a bad bishop. You're thinking endgame wise, the same f1 bishop usually ends up bad. So I thought, okay, trading off these two bishops couldn't be too bad for me in the long run. He traded off. I think bishop h6 was possible, but I could play rook f7 or bishop g7. Queen takes. So there's already stuff happening here, or some ideas on the f file. Knight h3 was played. So yeah, knight h3.
Is that not a bit of a strange move, Calvin? I mean, isn't knight ge2 perhaps better?
Yes, that's definitely the most natural move, knight ge2. But I don't know. The knight can't go here. The knight can't go there. The knight is not really finding. Most of the times, the knight should probably go to c1 and somewhere like this. So my opponent tries to, in the same issue, a lot of times it's actually nice to get the knight to f2, because on f2 it will be supporting a lot of things. So I guess it's an idea. I think white should have probably just played knight g2. I would say that.
Okay.
Knight h3. Okay, pawn takes e4 and bishop takes won't work, I think, because white does have knight takes e4 as an option.
Yeah.
So now the question is how to continue here. I need to, of course, complete my development, so this knight needs to get out. And the thing that was just on my mind is when white captures here, I would actually like to capture with the bishop to activate my pieces. A lot of times if white is castled already, then f4 could be an idea. But okay, I guess pawn takes is a very natural King's Indian move to play. But I just wanted to keep this move in mind. So knight a6 would then be an idea. But I decided to go knight d7 anyway. And probably my opponent still needs to just go knight f2 and castle here. And in this game, I think the reason why I also like it is because my opponent kind of played slightly provocative here in the opening. He captured on f5, seeing that my bishop is blocked. So he wants to go he wants me to go g takes. Maybe he can even long castle and go g4 or something. So I now decide to play knight to c5.
Okay.
Right. So okay, my opponent goes bishop c2. Of course,
you can't take on g6 because you take on h3 and queen it takes f3. Would that be the natural understanding.
Yes, he can take on h7. I'll play king h8. And then, yeah, white structure is horrible. This knight is going to f4. This knight is great. f3 is hanging, like you said. And my king is safe for now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this looks kind of nice. Like you said, maybe queen f3 immediately. This is hanging. That's hanging. That's hanging. So yeah. So he doesn't take the bait. He plays bishop c2. And now I play bishop takes f5. So, okay. Besides the fact that my opponent... Okay, so there's a fight for this e4 square. I can't let my opponent just stand on it easily. But I'm happy because all my pieces are developed. My rooks are connected. Half open f file. And yeah, so I didn't consider myself being better here, but I was just happy I've completed my development. So knight f2 played. And my opponent is definitely going now for that e4 square. So I can't really avoid giving him that square. So I continue with knight f4. And I'm hitting g2. So yeah, I expected my opponent here to castle. And
but
yeah,
g5 not winning now if he castles.
Is that the reason why he didn't go there? Okay, this was a long time ago. Is queen g5 just winning on the spot? Can he do nothing to stop this?
Because that's normally one of those tactics.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is a standard tactic over here. Maybe I just forgot about this one, but yeah, maybe that's well pointed out. So we're threatening mate, guys. And if white just stops it or protects it somehow, then knight h3 picks up the queen. Yeah, well spotted there, Lennon. So what did I expect then? If not castling, what should white do? Maybe knight e4. Maybe it's just knight e4.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was what I expected. But that's actually very instructive to show there. So knight e4 is something that I would have expected, and then some trades could happen. And the game continues. I think it's about level. But after knight f4, my opponent decided to play an automatic move over here, bishop takes. And maybe a question to the viewers out there is, what should I recapture with, or what should black do here? Queen takes, pawn takes, or what else? Yeah, I think I was slightly irritated. I think maybe I drew my previous game or something. I wasn't so happy, or I don't know if I lost my previous game to the tournament leader. I had that one loss in the event, and I was slightly irritated. Yeah, I mean, one can get irritated for anything after a bad result, and yeah, my opponent just nonchalantly taking on f5. What to do, guys? Any suggestions in the chat? I'll just give it a few seconds. Lennon, are you with us in the study, or are you watching?
Yeah, live? No, I'm watching I'm in the study, and because obviously if you do what they call, every Russian schoolboy knows, you must take with a G pawn in order to keep the two pawns next to each other, e5 and f5, and of course you're controlling e4 and f4. So
Yes.
So that's the one thing, and then obviously if queen takes f5, then you have a lot of influence on the d3 square as well for possible checks and all sorts of things. So those are possibilities, but I mean, tactically, a King's Indian always allows possibilities. A King's Indian always allows different possibilities. Nothing is automatic.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I had to wait up. I would probably play G takes. Kaskan in the chat says B takes C4. I guess it means G takes F4. Yeah, that's it. So that was probably the most natural positional move to make. And maybe we could play King H8 later and Rook G8. That looks quite nice. But yeah, I decided to go a bit more drastic. I thought I want to punish my opponent for, I mean, my last move, knight f4, is hitting g2. But the question is, if I take and then he goes here, then I must still recollect my piece and g2's hanging. But King also spots it. King also says knight takes g2, and knight takes g2 is what I played. So I'm taking on g2, and I'm now ready basically to give up a piece here. Because after king f1, first of all, my opponent can't castle anymore. And I play queen takes bishop, and now my opponent is obliged to take on g2. I take on f3, and king g1. Of course, king f1 would be a big blunder because queen takes h1, the knight is pinned. So not a pretty sight for white. Not a pretty sight. The rook is stuck in the corner. Black is a piece down. I sacked a piece for 2 pawns. But my knight on c5 is lurking around. I've got a lot of pressure on the f file. And my rook on a8 is the only guy that needs to join the game here. So, but for now, I've got my opponent tied down. His pieces aren't really coordinating well. His rook specifically. And I need to now, okay, what I can say is a piece is still a piece. And my opponent is a strong player here in his own right. And I needed to try to be accurate here. So, how to continue, basically. So obviously I want to get this rook into the game as quickly as possible. My initial idea was to just go rook f4, but for a type of mate, but the knight on f2 is covering that. So and of course rook f4 keeps an eye on this e4 square as well. And what I need to always keep in mind is I need to remember what my opponent wants to do. My opponent wants to trade off pieces. He wants to trade because he's a piece up and get his king safe. So moves like queen e2, I should keep an eye out for. Queen e2 trying to trade off, and maybe rook f1, something like this. So in the game, I went rook to f5. And I like this game because, I'm just casually continuing. Putting on the pressure. Rook g5 is not even there yet because the queen is covering, but it stops queen e2. Let's see, queen. In fact, it doesn't stop it completely. In fact, that is what white played in the game. But what else? What else does white play here?
I think white is in a difficult position, Calvin, because whatever happens, you have an easy move, rook f8.
Coming, yes.
And you know the theory of sacrificing is that it doesn't matter if you don't have an immediate win. The pressure means that your opponent has to find the best move at every juncture.
Exactly. And it's uncomfortable for white right now with the open king and the rooks being misplaced. So my opponent goes queen e2, desperately trying to exchange. And of course, I'm not going to allow this. So I go check, king f1, and I go check, king e1. And the next move, easy to play, rook f8. So now I've maximized my pieces and they are in the game nicely. First threat might be to play rook takes knight. And then we're going to snatch the rook on h1. So we're continuing with the initiative. And so my opponent plays rook to f1. Natural move, expected. And so slightly, okay, black has got his options here. Again, I don't want things to fizzle out. I'm still a piece down. There's no knight check over there. There's no obvious mating attack. There's nothing going on immediately. This h-pawn is hanging, but I thought that after queen takes h2, I didn't play queen takes h2 here. Maybe it was, I don't know, for some reason, knight e4 perhaps, or maybe I just didn't feel like the pawn is going to go anywhere.
But I think, Calvin, your queen on g2 is putting pressure on f1. So for me, a move like rook g f5 looks natural because it introduces the threat of rook takes f2. It introduces that threat. So the h2 pawn is irrelevant unless you sort of pick it up with tempo. So for me, rook f5 is a must now because every move you're doing is a tempo gaining move, to put it that way.
Exactly. So rook f5 indeed was played, nicely spotted. And yes, like you said, it makes very much sense. All of my pieces are oozing right now. So white again is in trouble. Like you said, rook f2 is actually a big threat. Just for example here, guys, let's say white plays a move like, what can white do? Some random move now. Let's say white plays a3, just to illustrate. Rook takes knight. We play rook takes. And then we have the fork at the end. So the knight on c5, still trying to get in some some forks. So white in this position played knight c to d1, covering more. And it's making it at least difficult for me to find an immediate way to break through. So again, I have some possibilities. I can take on h2. I can possibly take on d5. But instead, I again try to turn on the squeeze. And I go rook f3. Just keeping an eye on that square again. Controlling these type of squares.
Yep. Calvin, is pawn to e4 not a possibility instead of rook f3?
I think e4 is very much. I was probably considering this very much. So e4. Let's see. What was my concern? Obviously my opponent wants to play something. Is knight e3? Knight e3 is not possible. Is knight e3 possible? Yeah. Again, rook f2, right? What?
Okay. I see.
If knight e3, rook takes.
But you know what, Calvin? I'm just thinking, why can't you take with a queen? You can't take with a queen there on f2.
Take with the queen. Takes. And then knight d3 check.
No, rook takes first. Just humor me here.
Sure, okay. Okay, so we can't give up the queen because knight d3 check. So what should white do?
The queen must move now, obviously.
Queen somewhere. Where must the queen go? c4. c4.
And now the check on d3.
King has to go here.
And now check on d2.
Okay, so c4 is clearly not the right square for the queen. But yeah, I mean, that's also illustrated. I think e4 is very much a thematic move here in this type of position, supporting the knight. Maybe the queen on b5 would be an idea, but that very much seems like a good way to continue as well. But of course, we need to choose a way, and I decided to go rook f3 here. But I like e4. I really like e4. I'll actually check it after the game. I don't know when last I checked this game. But rook f3 was played. Knight e3. My opponent, of course, has to get these pieces into the game. His king. The problem is the long-term problem is the king is open. So knight e3. Finally, I take on h2. And again, he's trying desperately to trade off some pieces. I go queen h4 check. King d2. Queen d4 check. King c2. And yeah, I was running a bit low on the clock because I remember this is the reason why I started repeating some moves. So, because I was trying to find a killer blow. I wasn't finding it. And then finally, I had to break the repetition. So I took, and then another pawn drop. So now I've got a fourth pawn for the piece. Okay, so he doesn't really want to go king c1 because there's always a check here lurking as well. He goes king c2, and now the immediate attack has disappeared, but there's still some ideas in the air, especially because the king is open and the rook is still not in the game, and look at the knights here at the back. So I had to find this very natural move here, knight to e6. I'm threatening a fork, so keeping the initiative. King b1, knight d4, hitting the queen. And after queen e1, look at these pieces. Look at all of them, actually. I'm a piece down. And the final move is quite, it's not a difficult one to spot, but it's nice to see that my final move, I get my piece back, guys. So I sacked my knight a long time ago on g2. Finally, rook takes f1 comes. I get and immediately after I take my piece back, my opponent resigns here. So of course the idea is after queen takes f1, we go queen check. The king has to move, and it's mate by force. So very very memorable game. Very nice memorable game for me. Since it wasn't the normal sack mate, but more of a positional long-term sack. Tal used to sack a piece and then have some positional compensation for it long-term. So I sacked my piece for 2 pawns, and the positional long-term compensation was the king that was open for a long time. So interesting small game there, African Juniors.
Calvin, what was interesting for me is you kept up the pressure. A lot of players are scared to go a piece down. I mean, even I mean, how long did you go a piece down? It was at least 15 moves or longer that
Yeah.
you. What was your move when you took on G2?
Let's see. I took on G2, move 17. Yeah, move
And we
17
went
I
till
took on
move
G2.
36. So it's about 19 moves that you played a piece down. Now that shows the tenacity that you were talking about earlier. You got to go for it. And I mean, you were playing for the championship. You're going for it, and you were not scared. So well done in that regard. And I mean, none of the players that playing at this level are slouches. So I mean, I'm sure Chofia is a good player. And but well done to you for spotting, complicating the position, giving yourself chances, and just giving your opponent some things to think about.
Yes, it was stretched out tension or pressure on him. So yeah, no thanks, Lennon. Yeah, okay. So that's the one small one that was nice for me to remember. And the next one I'm gonna show is uh, I would say one of the games that helped me with the breakthrough that I was talking
Okay.
about. And of course, Watu is a legend. Watu has probably got a nice plus on me. Maybe in the later years, I tried to fight back a bit. We've had our battles. Um, there's a nice game between myself and Watu that I would like to show you guys on another occasion. That he actually won, but it was quite entertaining. But for now, this game that I'm going to show is from the essay closed. This says 2011. This can't be right. It's the one that I made the team, London. Is this 2015?
No,
No, I think it's 2015.
2015.
Yeah. So
2015, yeah, in
yeah,
Cape Town.
yeah. So it's 2015. Essay closed. This was the close that I actually made the Olympia team for the first time. I ended in third position. Daniel won it. Watu came second, and I came third. But at this point, I was joint leader with Watu and Daniel after like round 4 or 5, and I had the black pieces. Okay, let me just choose. This is the wrong game. I had the black pieces. Yeah, that's why I said 2011. This one is no. That's again the wrong game I chose. There it is. 2015. Yeah. So I had the black pieces, joint leader with Watu and Daniel, and this is a critical game that kind of gave me more energy to continue the fight for going for the title. Like I said, I ended up in third spot, but I think this was one of the games that made me believe. So okay, so I've got the black pieces here, and Watu has got the white pieces. Watu goes e4, I go e6. Yeah, so a little bit of prep. I don't think you guys see me play the French often, so I specifically prepared something for Watu, d5, and e5. So Watu, I had something else also prepared for Watu. Some of his other lines, but this was a sideline that he used to play as well. So I was like semi-ready for this. It wasn't a huge shock. I think the nice thing was psychologically, after I played this, Watu whipped out this, but I was ready for this. So if I wasn't ready for it, it would have given me a huge psychological shock. And at this time around, I was quite happy to just accept. So it's the wing gambit. White gets a stable center for now.
Mm-hmm.
And Anton Korobov says b6 is interesting. Yes, indeed. Instead of taking, I think b6 is definitely interesting move. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Jere from Zambia played this against Watu at some tournament, b6. And at Olympiad, another, I think it was an IM or GM, played this against Watu with d4. After takes, went knight c6. So lots of options here for black. Watu is a pawn down in this one, but of course, like Watu famously says, I always ask him, what about this position? You a pawn, or what about that? Watu always says, it's just a position. He just wants a position to play. So it's definitely just a position he wants to have to attack. That's what he loves doing. So d4, knight c6, bishop d3, knight g7. So not the typical pressure that you have in the French defense here on the white center.
Yeah.
Knight g7, a3, knight f5. So I'm willing to get double pawns if he wants to. Give it to me. I'm a pawn up, and that will slow down his attack. He takes, bishop takes pawn check, c3, bishop back, and h4. So I thought, okay, here we go. And what I've also learned from experience is you have to take the fight to your opponent. And if you just defend against Watu, he's gonna just, it's like a snowball effect. He's just gonna gain in strength. So yeah, I decided to go h5 and just put a small stop at what White is doing here. Okay, stopping g4 in the long run. Just securing my knight on f5. Knight to a3, bishop d7. So I'm stalling. I don't want to castle immediately. I just want to see what's happening. I'll play a lot of flexible moves. Bishop g5. In general, it is good for White to trade off the dark squared bishops because of the pawn structure. So Black will be left with a bad bishop on d7, technical bad bishop. And these dark squares, maybe specifically the d6 one, White could try to utilize over there in the future. So bishop g5, a good move. I go a6 to stop knight b5. Pawn to g3. Okay, Watu probably wants to castle here, but knight takes h4 is a possibility since I have a lot of pieces on it. So pawn to g3. Rook c8, another flexible move. Castling. And knight a5. Okay, so here's a critical moment. I want to now basically just put a clamp on the position. I want to go b5, I want to go knight c4, and just enjoy a nice positional advantage and say, okay, I'm a pawn up. What do you have for it? So strong players, they don't just sit back and they don't just wait for you to squeeze them. I want to refer to another DVD, what I was watching. Viktor Korchnoi was explaining one game. He played against Garry Kasparov at the Olympiad or somewhere. And the opening went bad for Garry. Garry had the white pieces. He played some d4, c4, knight f3, g3 stuff. And the opening went really bad for Garry at the beginning. And he lost a pawn. And the saddest thing is Garry didn't have any compensation for the pawn. So just after the opening, after the development was done, then Victor paused there and he said, okay, now at this moment, Garry realized he's not going to have any compensation for it. He's a pawn down. And the thing about Garry is a different breed from the normal player. He is the type of player that he needs the initiative. He lives for the initiative. So he cannot play a position where he's a pawn down with no initiative. He doesn't play chess like that. So what Garry did next, Garry sacrificed another pawn just to gain some play and initiative. And that would make things more practically more difficult for him. And eventually Garry, being on the computer, being lost, eventually drew the game actually. So a crazy game there. And Watu here, in similar fashion, is a pawn down. And you could see Black coming on with a positional clamp. So what does Watu do? He goes pawn to c4. And this is again a surprise to me. I would call it a semi-surprise because I always expect Watu to surprise me. And here we go again. This is what I'm thinking. I'm a pawn up. This h5 move slightly bothers me because I want to castle. And White is now seemingly sacrificing another pawn.
Yeah, he's giving you another pawn.
He's got 2 and I've got 1, 2, 3. So the question is how to take.
Because you also get two pass pawns, Calvin, on the queen side.
I get 3 pass pawns. So
3 pass pawns on the queen side.
This guy is going all out here. Of course, he wants to go for my king. So I don't know if the viewers would like to quickly give a suggestion, but or Lyndon, you can also give a suggestion or just thoughts. Or maybe what I can say is what I initially thought was, okay, if I take, let's say pawn takes, then you would probably just take over here. And go
and play pawn to d5. Yeah.
And I don't really care what the engine says right now. All that I can see is International Master Watu Kobese opposite me, and he's got these pawns in front of me, and I need to get my king safe, and these guys are running forward.
And knight d4 is coming.
And knight d4 is also coming. So I didn't like the sight of this. And this is also something that you guys can take, is sometimes you need to make good practical decisions. Don't always trust what the computer says. Don't always go the computer way, because the computer calculates a bit further and calculates impossible lines. We need to always try to, most of the times we need to choose good practical continuations. So this is not what I wanted. So similarly, okay, after knight takes, after pawn takes, a similar thing happens. So yeah, and I must say, during this, after c4, I didn't take too long to find my idea. Maybe it's the only way to continue. I don't know, but I thought that this was very natural, especially because I'm a pawn up already. So what happened is I played knight takes, and rook takes c4.
Calvin, it's an interesting move with a rook takes on there. Obviously, you get a lovely diagonal on c6 to h1 if he decides to capture. And Calvin, your move rook takes c4 reminds me of that famous Botvinnik game where Botvinnik played rook d5 when he had a double pawn on the c file and he had a pawn on e4. I don't know if you're familiar with that game,
Yes,
but
yeah.
He sort of gives up the exchange to get what do you call it, mobile pawns and also flexibility in his own position.
Yes. So yeah, that game does come to mind. And of course, just looking at this, I would also say that Petrosian's games also comes to mind with some exchange sacrifices or exchange offerings. So rook takes c4, and my main idea is just positional here. I don't want him to break through. If he captures here, then there's nothing, basically. I control the light squares, there's no pawn rush, and I can safely castle at some point. And he's got no initiative, and I'm winning. So he's basically forced now to accept my offer. And now I didn't just sacrifice my rook for a pawn and a bishop. I've got a second pawn already because of the pawn that he sacked. So I use that to my advantage. So I've got 3 connecting passed pawns over here. And if bishop c6 comes, the game is over, basically. If bishop c6 gets to be played, that will soon secure
and
the point.
Bishop c6, queen d5 must be mate on that diagonal.
Yeah. So again, the next move white played was kind of pretty obvious. So he played pawn to d5, and I had to capture. Queen takes, and yeah, okay, it's a bit jittery. I need to just stay calm and make sure I don't give what to anything here. So eventually, I play bishop c6. So I'm eyeing the knight. And yeah, it's at that moment, it might seem easy now, but at that moment it still felt a bit bold because I am an exchange down, and I'm offering the exchange of queens. So queen takes, bishop takes, king takes. So I've got my 3 passed pawns. He's got an extra pawn here. The knight is hanging, and I was pretty happy here. But then Watu again slightly surprises me. Knight to d4. Not making me relax even for a bit. So I capture, rook d1. And here comes a crucial moment. Which way to go? King c7, king e7. Which way would you go?
The natural instinct tells me king to c7 because then you're close to your 3 pawns and your bishop.
Yes, definitely. I chose the wrong way. I was very, how shall I say, pessimistic. I was happy about my position. I was still playing for a win, but I was thinking, now a lot of times when you're busy winning, you need to assess what's your opponent's counter chances. And I thought, okay, I've got 3 passed pawns, but the thing is, my opponent has an extra pawn on this side. So if one day, if he pushes, he could create some play. So I decided to go king e7, just to keep an eye on that. But considering this afterwards, I think that was way too slow. And after something like king c7, which was way better, rook takes. Do you see the follow-up though? Can you spot the follow-up here? This is, I didn't see this. This was actually maybe another reason why I didn't go king c7. I did not see the follow-up move. This is quite beautiful, actually.
Calvin, I must say that I'm partial to pawn to b5 and then exchanging rooks on the a file, but I don't know if I'm just being silly.
b5 is, of course, a natural move, yes. But this I didn't like. Rook a8 looks interesting. But in fact, you have the right start. Rook 8 is maybe not necessary. Yeah, you can just simply go king b7.
Okay.
This is the way to go. And after the rook, two rooks can't connect. After the rook moves somewhere, you can go king b6, king c5, start pushing.
King c5.
So I mean,
Yeah.
this is not that easy to. I mean, you need to know if this is good or not. But the engine really loves this, and this is just winning. So I went a bit more slowly. I went king e7, he captured, and I played the sad move bishop to b5.
That looks very sad. That looks very sad.
So it's still a while now to go. f4, g6, king f2, rook c8. Okay, I'm getting all my pieces involved. King e3, and now I need to regroup. I need to get my bishop on a better square. So bishop d7. The problem is white couldn't really play this easily because then this guy can also start running. So to stop bishop d7. So bishop d7, rook b1, b5, and eventually I get things going. Bishop f5 hitting the rook, rook a1. And yeah, I did something interesting. I think there's many ways to go, but yeah, you can easily also start going wrong as well. So I decided to go a5 here. Just entice the rook to come forward, pawn to b4, and now I need to run. Check, king f8, rook back. And here comes a moment. Of course, you want to push the pawns on the dark squares initially, but you can't here in this position. So b3. We need to just be careful not to allow white to blockade on the dark squares. Rook to a1. And the key move, what next? Okay, maybe it's easy, but how can we push forward?
Calvin, I was looking at the rook d8 now, just to cut the king off.
Cut the king off, yes, and then let's say I go rook c1.
Yeah.
I just desperately want to push this guy.
Yeah, I'm not looking at rook d8, rook c1, bishop c2.
Rook d8, rook c1, bishop c2. And then maybe we can push next.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought. But
this looks kind of interesting as well. This is kind of interesting.
The rook on b6 can't leave the b file because of pawn to b2.
Yeah. So this looks kind of cool. I like this. So what are we playing next? c3. And then maybe, no, we can't go there.
Well, you can even, I mean, because I'm just threatening a rook d3 check now and stuff like that. I mean.
And maybe. Oh, the king might have to go to f2. This looks good. This looks like a nice way to continue. I thought that maybe my bishop's in the way, but perhaps this is also winning. Let's see.
But I mean, surely black must just be winning, though. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of technique now, surely.
Yeah, definitely. So I decided to go a bit more, I would say, clear to myself. I went bishop to e6.
Okay.
Protecting there, and I'm running.
Yeah, of course.
So now what to realize that he's in trouble. So he's just trying to murky the water here. So he goes f5. Okay, now I need to decide, do I go bishop takes? Bishop takes is probably good, but I just want to continue with my idea and run. So g takes, king d4. But with this f4 push, there's more weaknesses now. And the bishop is holding everything together. Pawn to c3, rook c1, c2. And now essentially, I wanted to tie down one rook. And this bishop, with the help of these two pawns, is always going to tie down one rook. So king back, rook c5. I hit that weakness. Check. And I start knocking the other pawns. King g7. Slowly. Okay, he still continued a bit. But eventually, after this, and king h6, white resigned. And look at how the bishop just held everything together. Bishop, and of course, I'm going to slowly push forward and bring my king up. So, yeah, a nice game for me. I don't know.
Wonderful game. I mean, it's Calvin, you've illustrated both. I mean, both you and Watu played exciting chess here. And the thing I like about top players such as you and Watu, you guys never give up. And it's
Yes,
always, you got to be technically winning, and you got to know how to technically win. It's not a
exactly.
matter of just the player is going to roll over now. You still got to know your stuff, because Watu is going to set you problems.
Exactly. You can't fall asleep or just relax for one moment against Watu. The guy's gonna catch you off guard. So yeah, he forces you to convert. He forces you, and yeah, I think the exchange check came very naturally. So I think this game in general was not that difficult, except for the end, the technical part, figuring that out. The early stage of the game was almost playing it out itself. So also just a memorable one, because after this I continued with the lead with Caudry. I faltered. I had one loss in that event. I lost actually to Daniel later on. That was my only loss, and Watu caught up to me because he kept on winning as well. But I secured third position in that tournament and secured a spot in the Olympia team for the first time, and that's where everything just lifted off basically. So very memorable game.
And the things click there. Calvin, look, from my side and the viewer side, thank you very much, Calvin. We've shared 2 hours now from 7 o'clock. We started at 7 and it's now 8:56. As you said, now the players make things difficult. And now I'm going to go watch a match now called Man City versus Paris Saint-Germain. And Man City is leading 2-1 on aggregate. And now the question is, can Neymar and Mbappe do something in Manchester to try to offset that one? So it's going to be interesting. 2 top teams
Yes.
also playing, just like you guys with 2 Warriors that played here as well. But I think, Calvin, we probably, when we do our next London lecture series, we're probably going to need to look at that other game of yours against Watu as well. And then the viewers are also free to watch those 2 wonderful explanations that you've given with your wins over the 2 grandmasters, the one from Turkey and the other one was is it Slovakia or Slovenia?
The one is
On that.
Turkey, and I think Uzbekistan, or is it Kazakhstan? I think Kazakhstan.
Okay, so those are the 2 that we just need to have a look at. I mean, that they can have a look at a later stage as well. But Calvin, thank you very much for sharing your story. And remember, we're not done yet, because we still have the period 2009 to 2019. We still have that 10 years. There's the SA Open. There's a Commonwealth, 2 Commonwealths in that time. So there's a whole range of events that we still need to unpack, and how you played and how you prepared against the grandmasters, and the viewers would like to see that in our next reflective series, Calvin. So from my side, thank you very much for tonight.
Thanks so much, Lyndon. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thanks to the viewers for keeping the chat box warm, and thanks to all the kind words, and of course a big thanks to you, Lyndon, for making this whole series happen. It's been amazing. I think it's been going from strength to strength, and I only say that I am humbled by being part of your collection here of guests. So once again, thanks so much for making it happen. And the season is not yet done, guys. Stay tuned. Next week we will continue with more. I think we will advertise who we will see next week. But otherwise, you guys must enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy the soccer, London, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Calvin. Thanks, viewers. Enjoy the evening.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Bye.